Good evening, all. So let's begin with today's session. Look at the first question. Krishna Devaraya, a king of Vijayanagar Empire, composed a work on statecraft known as Amukta Malyada in which of the following languages? So first of all, this work is based on a statecraft, and a statecraft is nothing but the management of the state affairs. For example, the defense of the state, the finance of the state, and the day-to-day affairs of the state. So this work is available in the Telugu language. It was the golden period of the Telugu language when Krishna Deva Raya was there. He was the greatest king of the Vijayanagar Empire. And do remember that Vijayanagar dynasty, it was set up somewhere in 1333 AD by Hariharan Bukka. And this empire was set up during the Tughlaq regime at center, right? And one more thing is that Vijayanagar Empire had four different dynasties. So first of all, Sangam, then Suluv, then Tuluv, and finally Aravidu, right? So Krishna Dev Raya was from the Tuluv dynasty. Do remember Sangam, Suluv, Tuluv, and Aravidu. So you can see the explanation here. It is celebrated Telugu literary work authored by Sri Krishna Dev Raya, one of the greatest rulers of the Vijayanagar Empire, right? So Krishna Dev Raya was a great patron of the Telugu literature and was himself a distinguished Telugu poet. It's a rich source for the understanding of Vijayanagar statecraft, administration, societal norms, with the descriptions of towns, people, and governance. Right? Now let's move on to the next question. With reference to the Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, MPI, consider the following statements. The first statement says it is jointly published by the UNDP and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, OPHI. Absolutely correct. The second statement says it captures poverty by measuring deprivations only in income and consumption levels. No, it is beyond that. Right? तो जब भी इस तरह के absolute statements आए, absolute ये terms आए, तो please be attentive. So second statement is incorrect here. The third statement says health, education, and standards of living are equally weighted in the MPI. This is absolutely correct. So which of these statements given above is oblique are correct? Correct answer would be 1 and 3. So both these statements 1 and 3 are correct here. So correct answer would be A for Ahmedabad. Now let's move on to the explanation part. So you can see the explanation and why we picked up this question. See, recently the Multidimensional Poverty Index was published by the UNDP and OPHI, and with the title of Overlapping Hardships, Poverty, and Climate Hazards. And for the first time, it overlays climate hazard data with the multidimensional poverty to assess poor people's exposure to climate shocks, focusing on the high heat, droughts, floods, and air pollution, right? Its values, the value of the MPI ranges from 0 to 1, where a lower value indicates better performance. It serves as a crucial policy tool for the government to monitor and address the poverty more effectively, right? तो इसमें basically तीन main indicators हैं जिसको हम यहाँ पे measure करते हैं. First one is you have health, then you have the education, and finally you have the standard of living. अब इस standard of living में multiple sub categories यहाँ पे हैं, जैसे access to education, चाहे हम बात करें like overall number of schoolings की, school dropouts की, राइट, क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन की, या फिर हम यहाँ पे बात करें एक्सेस टू पावर सप्लाई की, एक्सेस टू एनर्जी की, ये सभी मल्टीपल इंडिकेटर्स यहाँ पे ओपीएचआई में कैलकुलेट होते हैं. नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. So question number 3, consider the following statements regarding the Pankokso Lake. The first statement says it is a brackish water lake located at an altitude of more than 4,000 meters. Absolutely correct. Second statement says it is the world's highest freshwater lake. No, it is not a freshwater lake. It is a brackish water lake. So second statement is incorrect here. Third statement says nearly 2/3 of the lake lies in the Chinese territory. Absolutely correct. So how many of the above statements is oblique are correct? यहाँ पे quantum पूछा हुआ है. So correct answer would be B. मतलब only 2 statements are correct here. Look at the explanation part and why we picked up this question. So first of all, it is a saltwater lake, not a freshwater lake. And you can see this, like this is the northern end of the Pankokso Lake and this is the southern end of the Pankokso Lake. यहाँ पे multiple finger points हैं. यहाँ जो geographical feature देख रहे हैं, ये finger, ये human palm की like के shape में है, fingers के shape में. So from finger 1 to finger 8 and this one, ये जो finger 8 से आप जो red line देख रहे हैं, this is nothing but the LAC, the line of actual control between India and China. So the LAC, as per India's stand, it begins east from the finger number 8. तो east from the finger number 8 मतलब finger number 8 के eastern end से शुरू हो रहा है. Which one? LAC, right? So now let's move on to the next question. With reference to the Himalayan red fox, consider the following statements. The first statement is, it is endemic only to the trans-Himalayan region of India. No, that's not correct. It is not only endemic to the trans-Himalayan region of India. It is also available in the other countries as well, like Nepal, Pakistan, Afghanistan, right? Bhutan. So the first statement is incorrect here. Second statement says it is classified as the least concern under the IUCN red list. This is absolutely correct. So how many of the above statements is oblique incorrect? तो यहाँ पे पूछा है incorrect. तो क्या हो जाएगा? Only one statement. So B for Bombay would be the correct answer. Only one statement is incorrect here. Now let's move on to the explanation part. So you can see the explanation here. A red fox spotted near Ladakh's Pencokso Lake. An IFS officer warns against sympathy conservation, right? So do remember that its status in IUCN is least concern and it is found in India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Tibet and Pakistan as well. Now let's move on to the next question. So question number 5. Internet services in India are primarily suspended under which of the following legal frameworks? First of all, you need to understand that freedom of speech and expression, that is an integral part of Article 19(1)(a). So Article 19(1)(a), it deals with the freedom of speech and expression, but it is not absolute in nature. It is subject to certain reasonable restrictions under Article 19 Clause 2, right? There are total 8 reasonable restrictions. For example, like the security of a state, sovereignty and integrity of India, public order, then you have defamation, then you have incitement to offense, then you have the friendly relationship with foreign countries, then you have decency and morality, and finally you have contempt of court, right? So these are the reasonable restrictions available under Article 19 Clause 2. So Article 19(1)(a) is not absolute in nature. Now you have to understand that all these legal frameworks like Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, Telecommunication Act of 2023 and Telecommunication Temporary Suspension of Services Rules 2024. All these statutory instruments, they stem out from Article 19 Clause 2. तो इनका constitutional backup क्या हो गया? That would be Article 19 Clause 2. यहाँ पे तीनों जो हैं करेक्ट हैं. इंडियन टेलीग्राफ एक्ट ऑफ 1885, टेलीकम्युनिकेशन एक्ट ऑफ 2023 एंड टेलीकम्युनिकेशन टेम्पररी सस्पेंशन ऑफ सर्विसेज रूल्स 2024. Correct answer is C for Calcutta, that is 1, 2, 3. So all these statements are correct here. Now why we picked up this question? There's a reason. Recently, internet services were suspended in Assam's Karbi Anglong. Why? In order to curb the violence. Clear? So all these statements are correct here. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following statements regarding the territorial sea are incorrect? Is oblique are incorrect. The first statement says it extends up to 12 nautical mile from the baseline. Absolutely correct. So let's suppose if this is the like एक हम rough example लेते हैं. So ये southern India है, Indian Peninsula. तो यहाँ से अगर हम baseline लेते हैं, so from baseline to 12 nautical mile, we have territorial sea. Then again वापस से हम baseline को pick करते हैं. So from baseline to 24 nautical mile, we have contiguous zone. Then again from the baseline to 200 nautical mile, we have the exclusive economic zone, EEZ. And beyond this 200 nautical mile, we have high sea, right? And always remember that a country enjoys absolute sovereignty in this region, where under this 12 nautical mile region from the baseline means territorial sea. Clear? So you enjoy the absolute sovereignty, means your domestic laws apply to this region, right? And in the exclusive economic zone, you can like exploit the mineral resource, you can exploit the oil, basically the biological and the non-biological resources, right? So the first statement is absolutely correct. Second statement says the coastal state exercises complete sovereignty over the territorial sea. Okay, that's correct. Absolutely correct. The third statement says foreign ships do not enjoy any right of passage through the territorial waters. No, this is completely wrong. Okay, the foreign ships, they enjoy the right of innocent passage. So innocent passage is available to the foreign ships here. So the third statement is incorrect. Correct answer क्या होगा? Only 1 and 2. So select the correct answer. यहाँ पे question की demand क्या है? इसमें से incorrect statements कौन से हैं? So there is only one statement which is incorrect. So statement number 3 is incorrect. So correct answer would be B for Bombay. right? Now let's move on to the explanation part. So you can see the explanation and why we picked up this MCQ. So there is a reason. There's a plea to include fisher folks in the policy making bodies for the fishing in the exclusive economic zone area, right? So the concept of EEZ was formalized under the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea, in 1982. It came into effect in 1994. And EEZ generally extends up to 200 nautical mile. And याद रखिएगा 1 nautical mile is equals to approximately 1.8 kilometers, right? And coastal states, they have sovereign rights, not fully sovereign. याद रखिएगा, clear? तो absolute sovereignty जैसा कोई term exist नहीं करता है, clear? Now let's move on to the next question. So question number 7 is there. With reference to Tanjavur painting, consider the following statements. The first statement says it is a classical South Indian art form that originated around 1600 AD. Absolutely correct. Second statement says Tanjavur paintings are traditionally created on wooden panels known as Palagai Padam. Absolutely correct. Third statement says Tanjavur painting has received the geographical indication tag GI. Absolutely correct. So how many of the above statements is oblique are correct? Correct answer would be C for Calcutta. All the three statements are correct here, right? Now let's move on to the explanation part. You can see the explanation why we picked up this question. So India Post transports priceless Tanjavur art of Sri Ram from Bengaluru to Ayodhya, right? So you can see this. ये रीजन था जिसकी वजह से हमने इसको पिक किया है. जनरली द हिंदू गॉड्स एंड गॉडेसेस, चाहे वो like figures like Lord Krishna, Lord Ganesha, Goddess Lakshmi, they are depicted on these paintings. Golden leaf or golden foil, that is a distinguished feature of like these paintings. Chaliye, now let's move on to the next question. With reference to Somaliland, consider the following statements. The first statement says Somaliland was formerly the British Somaliland Protectorate before merging with the Italian Somaliland to form the Somalia in 1960. Absolutely correct. So in 1960, Somalia was formed by merging the British Somaliland and the Italian Somaliland. Absolutely correct. The second statement says Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991 after the Somali national movement. Again correct. The third statement says Israel became the first country to formally recognize Somaliland as a sovereign state in 2025. It happened recently in December 2025. So this is also correct. Which of the above statements is oblique R correct? Correct answer would be all the three. So D for Delhi would be the correct answer. So look at the explanation. Behind Israel's recognition of Somaliland, strategic geopolitical interest at work, right? So you can see here, Somaliland is among the few countries that recognizes Taiwan. Again, a very important piece of information. And UAE operates a military port and airstrip in Barbara, Somaliland, right? So this was a news recently, and that's why we framed an MCQ on this topic. Now look at this one. एक बार मैप देखिएगा ध्यान से. So this is Somalia. Right hand side वाला मैप पहले देखिए. This is Somalia. Somalia with the capital Mogadishu. So Somalia forms its border with Kenya, with Ethiopia and with Djibouti as well. अब क्योंकि Somaliland जो है इसका international recognition नहीं है, Israel became the first country to recognize Somaliland as an independent state. इसलिए अगर हम प्रेजेंट में बात करें एज पर दी इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स, सो सोमालिया फॉर्म्स इट्स बॉर्डर विद कीनिया, विद इथियोपिया एंड विद जिबूती, एंड इट फॉर्म्स अ ह्यूज कोस्टल एरिया विद द गल्फ ऑफ एडन एंड विद द इंडियन ओशन, राइट? एंड याद रखिएगा ये जो सोमालिया के पास वाला एरिया है गल्फ ऑफ एडन के पास में, दिस इज नोन फॉर द सी पायरेसी. इनफैक्ट सोमालिया में एक सी पायरेसी बेस्ड स्टॉक एक्सचेंज भी है, राइट? अब बेसिकली क्या है, सोमालियालैंड हैड डिक्लेयर्ड इंडिपेंडेंस फ्रॉम सोमालिया व्हेन इन 1990s, पर्टिकुलरली इन 1991. अब अगर हम पर्टिकुलरली सोमालियालैंड की बात करें, इट फॉर्म्स इट्स बॉर्डर विद इथियोपिया, विद जिबूती, राइट, एंड विद सोमालिया. And this is what? This is Puntland, again a disputed territory between Somalia and Somaliland. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following ocean trenches are not located in the Pacific Ocean? Not located where? In the Pacific Ocean. So look at this one. First one, the Cayman Trench. So Cayman Trench, it is situated in the Caribbean Sea and it is the part of the Atlantic Ocean. So second cannot be the correct one. It is ruled out. South Sandwich Trench, it is also situated in the Atlantic Ocean near Georgia. right? So second and four, both are ruled out. Bonin Trench, it is correct. It is somewhere near Japan. And the Kalmadec Trench, it is equally correct, right? That is also situated in the Pacific Ocean. So select the correct answer using the code given below. So basically second and four, two and four. So D for Delhi would be the correct answer here, right? Explanation यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं आप. So Bonin Trench, it is situated in Pacific Ocean near Japan. Then Cayman Trench in Caribbean Sea, as I told you, in the Atlantic Ocean. Kermadec Trench, again in the Pacific Ocean near New Zealand, and South Sandwich Trench near South Georgia and Atlantic Ocean, right? Hence, the Cayman Trench and South Sandwich Trench are not in the Pacific Ocean. अच्छा, इससे पहले कि हम नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन की तरफ आगे चलें, अपने इंफॉर्मेशन को थोड़ा सा और एनहांस कर लीजिए. लाइक प्राइमरी ट्रेंचेस इन द इंडियन ओशन. सो द प्राइमरी ट्रेंच इज जावा ट्रेंच और द सुंडा ट्रेंच, which is located south of Java, Indonesia, forming the deepest point in the Indian Ocean, right? The second one is what? That is Diamantina Trench. So Diamantina Trench near Australia, and then the Makran Trench along the Iran and Pakistan, right? So you need to remember important trenches in the oceans. तो अभी हमने जैसे Pacific Ocean, then Atlantic Ocean, and then Indian Ocean की कुछ trenches को हमने cover किया. So such like information may come up in your next examination. Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 10. With reference to the Gandikota Canyon, consider the following statements. The first statement says it is located in Andhra Pradesh and carved by Pennar River. Absolutely correct. It is carved by the Pennar River. Second statement says Gandikota Canyon is often called India's Grand Canyon. Again correct. The third statement says Gandikota Fort, located in the canyon, includes structures like the mini Charminar. Again correct. So question is, which of these statements given above are correct? So correct answer would be all these statements are correct here. So D for Delhi would be the correct answer. Now why we picked up this question? See, this question like came up in your UPSC Prelims few years back. So look at the explanation. An article was recently published in the Hindu regarding the Gandikota Canyon. So Gandikota Canyon, the neglected wonder in our backyard, right? So it is situated in Andhra Pradesh. So it is carved by the Pennar River and it is commonly referred as the India's Grand Canyon. So guys, this was the last question of today's session. हम मिलेंगे next set of questions के साथ में next session में. Bye bye. Take care. Jai Hind.